Hey, what's going on out there, YouTube and Facebook? I'm making this video here a little bit more for Facebook than I am YouTube, just because a lot of people seem to be confused about the whole election and the questions on the ballot, and really what's going on in general. So, this first video I'm going to make in a series of videos, and my next videos will include the ballot questions for Massachusetts, is really why your vote doesn't count for president. Because honestly, your vote for president, it doesn't count. You can vote for Mitt Romney till you're blue in the face, and it really doesn't matter because the Electoral College is what decides who the president is. And what the Electoral College is just something that was established back in like 1803, 1804 under the guise of the 12th Amendment. And our founding fathers set this up because back in the day, you really couldn't get around to like make a campaign. They didn't have cars and they didn't have like airplanes and all that stuff, and you couldn't just like easily make your way about the country to like make your message heard. So all the people couldn't really hear it. There wasn't like CNN, there wasn't Fox News, there wasn't Facebook and Twitter, and even newspapers back then weren't widely distributed and centralized. So like out in a lot of the farmlands and everything, and there wasn't even really like rural and too many city areas, people didn't really know too much about the candidates, so they felt that people weren't able to make an informed decision about the candidates, so they came up with this electoral college idea, where like depending on the number of people in the state would be how many electoral representatives you have, and those electoral representatives, or electors as I call them, they're the ones that actually vote for the president on election day and choose who becomes the president, not the people. The popular vote is something totally separate. The popular vote is just kind of there to give you peace of mind nowadays so that you feel like your vote counts and that you're actually like, when you check something off on the ballot that it matters, but it really doesn't because it's the electors that actually make the decision. When they wrote this thing, they wanted it so that, each state gets to start with 3 electors, no matter how big the state was or how many people it had, and then depending on how many people are in the state would be how many, electors you actually have for the state, which really wasn't very fair because they did it with like this mathematical equation in small states with Rhode Island should really only have 2 electors, but really they have like 4 when like, a state like Ohio should have more than that. They end up with they end up with less. But that's a whole other issue on the side. So the Electoral College might have been a good idea back in the day when people weren't really as informed and everything, but nowadays that like news is so widespread and people are able to make a better choice that they can see the candidates that they're voting for, it really isn't such a good idea, and it sows the seeds of corruption. Because these electors nowadays, they're rich dirtbags, just like the people that run. They're bought and paid for by the same corporations, by the same mega banks, by the International Monetary Fund, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the World Bank, the Federal Reserve people, and Wall Street. These are the people who put most of these electors in there to make the decisions for us, the people. Now, when you go vote for like your congressman or your senator or your state representatives, that's a little bit different because those people actually like you get to vote and they end up in office. I'm not saying there isn't election fraud and stuff, but they're the ones you're voting for, as well as the questions on the ballot. The electors don't have any say in that matter, but they do, however, make the choice for us who the president is. And in case there happens to be a tie between the Electoral College, well, then it goes to the state representatives, and they get to decide. The House of Representatives decides who's the president. So really, the power isn't in the hands of the people as far as electing our leader goes. It really isn't even our leader anyway. It's just a puppet to the money cartel. All right, so these electors, all right, they cast their vote on November 6th. I believe that's when the election is. Hopefully I don't sound like an idiot on here, but yeah. So they cast their vote. So when you're watching the TV and you see that map of like the United States up there, and it's got the red states and the blue states, and like, oh, like the president has this many points and Mitt Romney has that many points. They're not like taking some point system from our votes. They're talking about the Electoral College. Our votes don't really matter. You can vote for Mitt Romney till you're blue in the face, and that's fine. Every person in America could go check Mitt Romney off on the ballot. It doesn't really matter because the Electoral College votes for Barack Obama, and he ends up in there. And the electors are supposed to like stick with the candidate that they swear allegiance to, and they end up going in there, and that doesn't always happen. A lot of times they don't. That's why the vote ends up getting swayed. Sometimes red states become blue states and vice versa, and that's what they talk about, that red and the blue state thing. All right. And I'm going to tell you right now, from my own research and my own experience, you know, I wouldn't doubt if Mitt Romney won the popular vote. I don't really see that happening. It wouldn't surprise me, but he's not going to win the electoral vote. All right? Barack Obama serves the International Monetary Fund, the money cartel, the Council on Foreign Relations, the World Bank, all these big conglomerate, giant, rich, trashy families that run the planet. He serves them well because he divides this country. You know, people like think he brings this country together. This guy causes more racism and more clash between classes than any other president has in history. All right, he pitched the haves against the have-nots. Now, when they want you to think about the haves, they want you to think because like maybe you drive two cars and you can afford a nice place and you have some nice things. And I'm not talking about a mansion. I'm just talking like maybe you own a house. Maybe you have 2, 3 decent vehicles and you can afford to go out to eat. They want the people on welfare and stuff to think that you're a have, when really you're not a have. You're like still part of a slave to the system. The real haves are the filthy, mega, super rich. The people that have more zeros in their bank account than you and I could ever even fathom. Those are the haves. The big celebrities, the people that make like millions of dollars a year. Those are the haves. So they pit the lower class haves against the have-nots because the haves get all pissed off because the have-nots, you know, they get welfare and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, why do I have to work? This bastard in front of me at the grocery store is filling this grocery cart. And then these people here look at you like, oh, that's one of those people that has money. They want to take away my welfare. So, like, it really causes this big division amongst the country. And really, if you want to conquer something, you got to divide it, especially a country as strong as America. So they're not done with Barack Obama yet. Especially since he's going to be in there for 4 more years with no more chance of re-election. They're going to have this guy doing all kinds of shady stuff. You know, they can have him write all kinds of bills and cram all kinds of stuff down our throat. And really, like, what is anyone going to do? You really can't do much about it. You know, I'd like to tell you what to do, but the Secret Service would probably kick down my door and arrest me for it. So, it doesn't matter if you go vote for Mitt Romney, if you go vote for Barack Obama, if you vote for a third-party candidate, because the Electoral College is the one that decides. So people like rip me apart like, oh, you're voting for a third-party candidate. We need to get Barack Obama out of there. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Go vote for that third-party candidate. I'm going to tell you why you should vote for that third-party candidate. Because in 2016, when they take a look at the numbers of the popular vote for the people that went and voted for a third-party candidate, that candidate is more likely to get funds and get money from people that like think he might have a chance because he had a huge percentage of the popular vote rather than this whole scam that they have going on that you have to vote for the red, you have to vote for the blue, you know, because those are the only 2 people that have a chance of winning. So if you look at it like, hey, it doesn't matter who I vote for because the Electoral College doesn't care who I vote for. It doesn't matter if the entire state votes one way. The Electoral College is going to vote how they want to vote, how they've been paid to vote, which serves their interest best, not what serves yours. So, if you vote for a third-party candidate, you get to rattle up the system a little bit, and they get to see all these people are now leaning towards a third-party candidate, and he's more likely to end up on the polls. Now, the reason you don't see a third-party candidate in the debates is because the only way you get invited to a debate is if you have more than 2% of a vote on a certain poll, which I believe is the ABC or the NBC or the CBS poll, one of them alphabet polls, all right? And what happens is when they start to get the percentage of the vote, just like Gary Johnson did, they pull him off the poll. So when you go online to vote for that guy on the CBS or whatever poll it is, I can't remember, he's no longer there to pick. So how's he going to get a percentage of the vote? He isn't going to get invited to the debate, and that's the media's fault for doing that. They're the ones to keep the system the way it is. They're the ones to keep us locked in this whole thing that like, oh, you know, we have to vote this way, or we have to vote that way. Or if you want Barack Obama out of there, even though you think Mitt Romney's a piece of trash, vote for Mitt Romney, because it doesn't matter who you vote for. That's this illusion that they have you believing. Go look up the Electoral College. Go read the 12th Amendment. Learn about it. That's the way the system really works. It's not really a democracy. You know, that's not how democracy is really supposed to be. That's just like, it's a whole big scam now. And like I said, back in the day, that was probably a really good idea because people weren't informed. You know, they couldn't really make a good decision. There wasn't newspapers around the world. There wasn't like information viral everywhere so people could see what the candidates were talking about and all this stuff. So people were making ill-informed decision on who they were voting for because they really didn't know anything about the candidates. But in today's information world, we can learn a lot really fast. So if we're able to learn a lot really fast, we're better to make a more informed decision, which means we don't really need the Electoral College. So the whole reason the 12th Amendment is there is to keep these Wall Street conglomerate, giant IMF, fucking warmongering, penny-stealing bastards in office. Alright? Because both of these candidates are exactly the same. There is no difference between Mitt Romney and there is no difference between Barack Obama. I mean, take a look at the two. They're like, oh, Mitt Romney is going to take away everyone's welfare. He's going to get rid of the women's right to choose. He can't do that. He doesn't have the power to do that, nor would the powers to be ever let him possibly even do that, because they want people gone. They want genocide. They want people dead. They want the population lower. And that's just a smaller thing to look at. That's a smaller scope. Let's just look at the two people's financial plans, all right? You got Mitt Romney over here, and he's got this financial plan, which is going to, like, you know, cut taxes from the rich and this and that. Well, when he talks about cutting taxes from the rich, like, oh, he's going to cut taxes from the people that make over $250K a year. And Barack Obama over here is like, I'm going to tax the people that make more than $250K a year. Yeah, that sounds really good, but when you do the research, what you end up finding out is the people that make more than $250,000 a year, 88% of them are small business owners. They're the people that employ people like me. They're the people that employ people like you. So if you go and tax that small business owner more than $250,000 a year that he makes, and you tax him more, that hurts me, because now he can't give me a raise. He can't afford to buy the proper equipment at the shop. He can't afford to provide more money into the healthcare so that my healthcare costs go down. It ends up screwing the whole system. And the reason these people are labeled as an individual that make over $250,000 a year is because they file as incorporated. So that way there, if their business goes belly up, they don't lose their house. They don't lose their possessions. They only lose their business. That's the way that whole scam works. So this guy over here and this guy over here both want to do the same frickin' thing. They just word it differently. This guy over here makes it look like he's for the people that are poor, and this guy over here looks like he's for the people that work hard. But really their plans are exactly the same. No one is talking about anything any different. The only people that talk about things different are the independent candidates. People that talk about things like the fair tax plan. People that talk about things like getting rid of the International Revenue Service, as I like to call it, IRS, whatever you want to call it. All right, they want to get rid of the Federal Reserve, the income tax, the income gains tax, capital gains tax. They want to get rid of that. If you end up getting rid of that under the fair tax plan, all right, and you don't have an income tax anymore, what's going to happen? All these big companies are going to come back over here, and they're going to start manufacturing again. Small entrepreneurs are going to be able to start businesses up because they're not going to get taxed to death with all these crazy fees and stuff. They're going to be able to start a business. We're going to be able to start manufacturing. Start giving people jobs in factories again, making like $30 an hour, $40 an hour. Something they can actually like buy a house with and like do things with. But they don't want that, okay? That is not what the world's elite wants. And what you've got to understand is that these two puppets are working for the same people. One is red and one is blue. Alright? But they both work for the same people. They both have the same exact agenda. Like under the fair tax plan, which is someone down the middle, like Gary Johnson, alright? Under the fair tax plan, which they're never going to let happen, if you got rid of all that income tax and all that stuff, they want to put one tax, just one federal tax on the stuff that you buy. And that way there, like say like you buy a $10,000 couch, you're going to get taxed on that couch a lot. But if you buy like a $700 couch, you're not going to get taxed on that couch a lot. So the people that can afford to buy a $10,000 couch, they can afford to pay more tax on it. If you're buying a $10,000 couch, obviously you got the cake to whip out and spend, so you can pay more taxes on that couch. Whereas someone who like doesn't frivolously spend their money away in a $10,000 couch or who can't afford a $10,000 couch, they're not going to get taxed as much on the $500, $600, $700 couch. All right? Now, for those people out there who listen to this video thinking that I'm crazy, oh my God, how are we possibly going to pay for the fire department and all this other stuff? That comes out of your local tax. That comes out of your town tax and your state tax. All right? The fire department and all that stuff and the roads being paved and all that good crap is paid for by your local tax. I'm not saying they're going to get rid of all the state and local town taxes. That's how it was originally set up to be. All right, that pays for your stuff in your town to take care of you, to make sure the firemen can come put out the fire and the police can come take care of this stuff. All right. So back to what I was saying. It doesn't really matter who you're going to vote for. All right. You can look at the fair tax and you can look at that. It's a great idea, whatever. To me, the system is still so broken that something like that isn't really going to make that huge of a difference, but it will make a big difference. It's a step in the right direction, but you've got to get it out of your heads. You don't choose who the president is. The rich choose who the president is, and they do it through the Electoral College. They don't have to fix the elections for president. It's not like this machine that you stick the ballot in is going to check off Barack Obama's name, because the Electoral College is already paid to put Barack Obama in office, all right? I'm going to tell you right now, Mitt Romney, it wouldn't surprise me if he wins the popular vote. But Barack Obama is going to win the electoral vote, and that's the vote that puts him in office. It's that simple. You don't have a choice. So go out there and vote independent on your sheet. Check that up, independent, and rattle the system. Show the system that, hey, man, we don't want the same red and blue crap. We want something new. We want something different. We're sick of the oligarchy. We're sick of this being crammed down our throat and the media twisting everything and making it look like it's one way when it's not. Because when they go out there and they're like, oh, the polls are looking like it's leaning towards Romney. Oh, the polls look like it's leaning towards Barack Obama. That's a whole big freaking game. It's a big game. They're like laughing at you behind the scenes. These people are so dumb they don't even know how the system works. And that's the way it is. Because it doesn't matter who's ahead in the polls. Because the Electoral College is who decides who is the president. So this is my video on why your vote for president really doesn't count unless you vote for independent and you rattle the system and give an independent a chance to get in there in 2016, or at least end up in the debates anyway. If more people called and written and complained to these poll places and be like, hey, how come Gary Johnson isn't on there? If people started getting all up in arms, you didn't have these media zombies on there like, ooh, Mitt Romney, ooh, Barack Obama. Things might change a little bit. I mean, anyway, that's the way it is. So my next videos that I'm going to be posting is going to be on the questions on the Massachusetts ballot. The first question is the My Right to Repair Act. The second question is the Death with Dignity Act. And the third question is the legalization of medical marijuana. Now, I haven't quite decided if I'm going to do all three of these questions into one long video, or if I'm going to break down each question, because there's a lot in the laws for each one of these questions, a lot of propaganda on both sides for these questions that I had to sift through and go through to get down to the actual facts of the questions. And it's still up to you to decide what you want to check off. But I'm just going to lay it out for you how it really is, how each bill works, go through all of the lies and the crap, and give you the truth about each one. So, thanks to everyone for watching my videos. I appreciate the comments and all that stuff. Sorry to all my YouTube subscribers for not really making too many videos anymore. But that's just the way it is, Your vote does not count unless you vote for independent, because the Electoral College decides. I'm going to leave this video like I do all of my YouTube videos with be safe, keep it real, peace out, and keep truthing.